You found the spot. It feels right. Your first cast, boom, fish on. The second cast, another one. You're thinking, today is the day. You finally settle onto your tackle box, maybe pour a coffee and get comfortable. And then, it happens. The bites stop. The rod tip stays dead still. The water goes quiet. It's been exactly 15 minutes, and the fish have vanished. Sound familiar? Today, we are tackling this exact problem, the infamous 15-minute curse that plagues every angler. And I promise you, the reason has nothing to do with bad luck, changing pressure, or the fish suddenly getting full. The truth is much simpler, and it's probably a habit you don't even realize you have. Stay tuned, because I'm going to reveal the tiny detail you're overlooking every single time you sit down, and it's the very thing that's killing your bite. Before we start, let me know in the comments right now. Am I crazy, or does this happen to you all the time? For generations, we've passed down the same old excuses. Oh, the school just moved through. The barometer must have dropped. They got spooked by a pike. We say these things to make ourselves feel better, to rationalize why a red-hot bite suddenly evaporated into thin air. It happens when you're ice fishing, bank fishing, or even fishing from a dock. It's a universal experience. We've been conditioned to believe that the underwater world is a mystery and that fish are unpredictable. We spend hundreds, even thousands of dollars on sensitive rods, lifelike lures, and fancy electronics to try and solve this puzzle. But the truth is, we often ignore the most powerful factor in the entire equation, ourselves. We've been taught to focus on what we're presenting to the fish, but we've forgotten to pay attention to what the fish are sensing from us. This whole 15-minute phenomenon isn't about the fish's behavior. It's about the change in our own behavior. Let's start at the beginning. Think about your initial approach to a new spot. You are in full-on predator mode, whether you realize it or not. You move slowly, you try not to skyline yourself on the bank, you make your first few casts with precision and minimal disturbance. Your senses are heightened, and every part of you is focused on not spooking the fish. You're a hunter. During this initial phase, you are an almost neutral part of the environment. The minimal sounds and vibrations you make are cautious and deliberate. The fish in the area might be aware of your presence, but they don't yet perceive you as a direct threat. You are just another piece of background noise in their world, like a duck landing on the water or a muskrat swimming by. This period of stealth is crucial. It's why those first few minutes are so often productive. You haven't yet broken the unwritten rules of the underwater world. You are a guest, and you're behaving like one, which is why the residents haven't decided to kick you out just yet. And that brings us to the honeymoon period. Those first 5, 10, maybe even 15 minutes of magical fishing. The fish are active, and they're hitting your bait. This is the reward for your stealthy approach. You're in the zone. Because you are quiet and careful, the fish are feeding with confidence. They don't associate the new, delicious-looking meal in front of them with the faint disturbances they might have sensed minutes earlier. This is a critical window of opportunity. During this time, you're still operating with a high level of focus. Your movements are economical, casting, retrieving, unhooking a fish, and getting your line back in the water. You haven't had time to get complacent. The excitement of the initial success keeps you sharp. You are still thinking like a predator, focused purely on the hunt. This honeymoon period reinforces the idea that you chose the right spot and the right bait. But it also sets a trap, making you believe that the action will continue indefinitely, no matter what you do next. It gives you a false sense of security. Now, here's the exact moment it all goes wrong. The moment the curse begins. After landing a few fish, you decide to finally settle in. This is the single biggest mistake. You shift your weight, plant your feet firmly, and sit down with a heavy thud on your tackle box or bucket. Maybe you let out a sigh of satisfaction. You reach for your thermos and the metal scrapes against a zipper. You pour a coffee. You decide to open your tackle box with a loud click of the plastic latches to grab something. In your mind, you're just getting comfortable for a long, productive session. But from the fish's perspective, an earthquake just went off. The subtle, cautious presence has been replaced by a loud, clumsy, and unpredictable force. You have officially announced your exact location and your intention to stay. That single act of settling in is the starting gun for the end of your bite. All the stealth and care you exercised just minutes before has been completely undone by your desire for comfort. You've gone from being a quiet hunter to a noisy neighbor, and the fish are the first to notice. So, what's the first thing we tell ourselves when the bite dies? Oh well, the school must have moved on. This is the most convenient lie in fishing. Let's be brutally honest. Fish are simple creatures driven by two things: food and safety. They are not just aimlessly wandering around for no reason. If they found a reliable food source in a specific area, they have no logical reason to leave unless a greater force compels them to. That greater force is almost always a perceived threat. A school of perch or crappie doesn't just decide to swim half a mile away after 10 minutes of easy eating. They were pushed out. They didn't move on. They were evicted. And you, the angler, are the one who served them the eviction notice. Thinking the fish just left is a passive way of thinking. It absolves you of any responsibility. The reality is active. You did something that made them leave. Accepting this is the first step to fixing the problem. The fish are likely still nearby, hiding in cover, waiting for the threat, you, to go away. The real culprit behind the 15-minute curse is not one thing, but a combination of things, all tied to one concept: micro-vibrations. Here's a simple fact that most anglers forget. Water is incredibly dense. It transmits sound and vibration more than 4 times faster and far more efficiently than air. The ground you're standing on, whether it's a muddy bank, a wooden dock, or a sheet of ice, acts as a massive conductor, sending every single one of your movements directly into the water column. You might think that shuffling your feet or setting down a tackle box is a minor event, but to a fish, it's a seismic event. These are not natural sounds. The underwater world has a certain ambient noise, but it's mostly low, rumbling, and organic. Sharp percussive sounds like a thud or a scrape are alien and alarming. They cut through the natural noise like a fire alarm in a library. These vibrations travel directly to the fish's most sensitive organ, their lateral line, which is designed specifically to detect these kinds of disturbances to avoid predators. Let's focus on one of the biggest offenders, something you probably do without ever thinking about it: your feet. Your feet are the primary source of the problem. Every time you shift your weight from one foot to the other, you are sending a pressure wave through the ground. Every time you tap your foot to stay warm, you are playing a drum for every fish within 50 feet. Think about when you're ice fishing. You drill your hole, get set up, and for the first few minutes, you stand relatively still. Then your feet get cold. You start doing the cold weather shuffle, rocking back and forth, stomping your feet to get the blood flowing. That stomping action on a sheet of solid ice is the equivalent of you banging a drum right next to a fish's head. On a soft bank, the effect is muffled but still present. The soft, rhythmic thumping is an unnatural, repetitive signal that screams, "Large, heavy creature nearby." Fish are hardwired over millions of years to associate these ground vibrations with danger, like a bear or a heron walking along the shoreline. Your innocent attempt to stay warm is a massive red flag to them. Now, let's talk about your base of operations, the tackle box. We treat it like a piece of furniture, but it's actually a musical instrument of fish-scaring sounds. First, there's the sound of you dragging it into position. That scraping sound of plastic on rock or wood or ice is incredibly grating and unnatural. Then comes the thud as you finally sit down. It's a low-frequency boom that radiates through the ground, but it doesn't stop there. Throughout your session, you're constantly interacting with it. The loud snap of the latches opening and closing, the clattering and rattling of lures, weights, and tools as you rummage through it. You close the lid and it slams shut with a whoomp. Each of these sounds is a sharp, distinct acoustic event that is completely foreign to the natural environment. Imagine you're a fish, peacefully feeding. Suddenly, you hear a series of sharp clicks, scrapes, and thuds coming from directly above. You would instantly go on high alert. Your tackle box, the source of all your tools, is also the source of the signals that are shutting your bite down. Beyond vibrations, there's airborne sound. We often think that as long as we're not yelling, we're being quiet. But that's not how it works. The sounds of you talking, even in a normal voice, can be a problem. Low-frequency sounds, like the bass in a human voice, travel surprisingly well through the ground and into the water. If you're ice fishing, the ice acts like a giant microphone diaphragm, transmitting the vibration of your voice directly into the column below. Think about coughing. A sudden sharp cough is a percussive blast. The same goes for clearing your throat. These are abrupt, loud noises in an otherwise quiet setting. And what about your phone? A sudden ringtone or a notification sound can be enough to put the fish on edge. The key here is not the volume, but the suddenness and unnatural quality of the sound. Fish are used to the gurgle of the water and the whisper of the wind. They are not used to the rhythmic cadence of human speech or the sharp burst of a cough. These sounds signal the presence of something that doesn't belong. We've covered sound and vibration, but don't forget about visual pressure. This is especially critical in clear or shallow water. In the first 15 minutes, you are likely sitting or kneeling, keeping a low profile. But once you get comfortable, you start moving around more. You stand up to stretch. You walk over to check another rod. Every time you stand up, your shadow is cast over the water. To a prey animal like a fish, a large dark shadow moving quickly overhead is a universal sign for aerial predator. It triggers an immediate flight response. Think of a hawk or an osprey. Their shadow is the last thing many fish ever see. Your innocent stretch could be inadvertently mimicking this exact threat. Even your movement on the bank is a problem. Fish have excellent peripheral vision. They can easily detect movement, color, and contrast along the shoreline. A brightly colored jacket moving back and forth against a natural background is a dead giveaway. You went from being part of the scenery to being a flashing neon sign that says danger. There's another, more subtle, attack on the fish's senses that we almost always overlook: your scent. No, I'm not talking about the scent on your lure. I'm talking about the chemical cloud you bring with you. Think about what you put on your hands before you go fishing or while you're out there. Did you use bug spray? That DEET is a powerful chemical repellent that fish can detect in minute quantities. Did you use hand sanitizer? The alcohol and perfumes are completely alien to their world. Did you just fill up your truck with gasoline? That residue is now on your hands. Even the soap you used that morning can leave a film. When you handle your line, your lures, and your bait, you are transferring these foreign chemicals into the water. They create an invisible scent trail that drifts down current. Fish have an incredibly acute sense of smell, far more sensitive than a bloodhound's. When they encounter a drift of these unnatural, alarming chemical smells, they will often stop feeding and move away to find cleaner water. You're inadvertently poisoning your own fishing spot. Let's consider the concept of rhythm. Nature is chaotic and random. The wind gusts, water laps against the shore, and animals move in irregular patterns. Humans, on the other hand, love rhythm and repetition. This is a huge problem when you're fishing. Think about how you might be jigging. It's often a very rhythmic, metronome-like motion. Up, down, up, down. To you, it's a proven technique. To a wary fish, that perfect, unnatural rhythm can be a red flag. The same goes for other repetitive noises you might make. Maybe you tap your rod against your bucket in a steady beat while you wait. Or perhaps you're constantly reeling and casting in the exact same cadence. These perfectly timed actions are a human trademark. They don't exist in the natural world. A fish that has been pressured before learns to associate these man-made rhythms with danger. A more natural, erratic, and unpredictable presentation is often far more effective because it mimics the randomness of actual prey and the natural environment. To really understand why all of this matters, you need a basic grasp of underwater acoustics. Sound underwater is a completely different beast. Forget what you know about how sound travels through air. In water, sound waves move with much less energy loss, meaning they travel further and faster. More importantly, it's not the volume of a sound that spooks fish, but its transient quality. A transient is a short, sharp peak of energy. A click, a snap, a thud. The constant low rumble of a distant boat motor might not bother fish at all, as it becomes part of the ambient background noise. But the sharp click of your tackle box latch is a high-energy transient that cuts through that background noise like a knife. It is impossible for a fish to ignore because it's so different from everything else it hears. These are the sounds that trigger a flight response. Your entire settling-in process is just a long series of these sharp, unnatural, transient sounds being broadcast directly into their living room. So how do fish hear all these vibrations so well? It's thanks to their biological superpower, the lateral line. You need to stop thinking of fish as having just 5 senses like us. They have a 6th sense, and it's more powerful than you can imagine. The lateral line is a series of pressure-sensitive receptors that run down the sides of a fish's body. It allows them to feel the tiniest changes in water pressure and vibration around them. It's how they hunt in total darkness, how they avoid obstacles, and how they sense predators. Think of it like this. Imagine if you could stand in a room and feel the air currents change as someone walked in from another room. That's the level of sensitivity we're talking about. When you shuffle your feet on the bank, the lateral line doesn't just hear a sound, it feels a distinct pressure wave moving through the water. It can pinpoint your exact location and size based on these vibrations. It's a sonar system and a motion detector all in one, and it's constantly telling the fish that you are there. Another thing to remember is that you're not just dealing with one fish's reaction. You're dealing with the collective reaction of a school. In any group of fish, there are always a few individuals that are more cautious and skittish than the others. Think of these as the sentinel or observer fish. They may not be actively feeding, but they are on high alert for danger. While the rest of the school is focused on your bait, these sentinels are the ones that notice the shadow, feel the vibration of your tackle box, or sense the unnatural rhythm of your jigging. Once a single sentinel fish gets spooked, its reaction is instantaneous and contagious. A quick flick of its tail, a sudden darting motion. This body language signals danger to the entire school in a fraction of a second. Before you know it, one spooked fish has triggered a chain reaction and the whole school vanishes into deeper water. You didn't scare 10 fish. You scared one fish, and that one fish scared the other 9. The surface you are on dramatically changes how much noise you make. You must become an expert in your environment. Let's start with ice fishing, the worst offender. A solid sheet of ice is basically a giant amplifier. It's a drumhead stretched over the water. Every scrape of your sled, every footstep, every dropped tool is broadcast with perfect clarity to the fish below. A wooden dock is a close second. Wood vibrates beautifully, which is why we make guitars out of it. Your heavy footsteps on the planks create a rhythmic thump, thump, thump that travels down the pilings and into the water. A gravel or rock shoreline is also problematic, as shifting rocks create grinding and clicking noises. The best surface to be on is a soft, muddy, or grassy bank. The soft earth does a much better job of absorbing and deadening vibrations before they can reach the water. Understanding this allows you to adapt. If you're on ice or a dock, you have to operate with 10 times the stealth. If you're on a soft bank, you have a little more room for error. Let's talk about the fidget factor. This is the constant need to adjust and tinker with your gear. In the first 15 minutes, you are usually using one setup that's working. But the moment the bite slows, what do? You start fidgeting. You decide you need to retie your knot. You start rummaging through your box for a different color jig. You decide to switch to your other rod. Each one of these actions creates a new series of noises and vibrations. The snip of your line cutters, the clink of a tungsten jig being dropped, the rustle of your jacket as you reach for another rod. You are essentially reintroducing a series of alarming, unnatural sounds into an environment that was just starting to calm down. The fish, which may have just been cautiously waiting for the initial disturbance to pass, are now hit with a fresh wave of threats. This constant fidgeting ensures that the fish never feel safe enough to resume feeding. It's a cycle of self-sabotage. The bite slows, so you fidget, and your fidgeting ensures the bite stays slow. Sometimes, the problem isn't you, it's your fishing buddy. Solitary fishing is often more productive for a reason. When a friend comes over to your spot, the amount of pressure on the fish increases exponentially. First, you start talking. Your voices get louder as you chat. Second, you now have double the movement. 2 sets of feet shuffling around, 2 tackle boxes being opened and closed, 2 people standing up and casting shadows. The combined vibration and noise is far more than twice that of a single angler. It's a chaotic mess of signals from the fish's perspective. Think about a quiet library. One person can move around almost unnoticed. But when 2 people start walking around and whispering, the entire room becomes aware of their presence. Fishing is the same way. The social aspect of fishing is great, but you have to be aware that every person you add to a spot dramatically increases the chances of spooking the fish. If you're fishing with a partner, you both need to be committed to staying quiet and still. Consider how your baiting strategy changes after that initial honeymoon period. At the very beginning, you're likely methodical. You might make a few careful casts to gauge the depth, or gently toss a small amount of chum or bait into the water to get the fish interested. Your presentation is delicate, but after 15 minutes, especially if the bite has slowed, impatience kicks in. Your casts become more aggressive. You're not carefully placing your lure anymore, you're launching it. That heavy lure or sinker now makes a much louder plop when it hits the water. If you're bait fishing, you might start throwing in handfuls of bait, trying to force the fish to feed again. This bait bombardment has the opposite effect. The constant splashing and commotion on the surface doesn't attract fish. It alerts them. You've gone from subtly offering a meal to loudly and obnoxiously ringing the dinner bell, and it's making the fish nervous rather than hungry. Your impatience is being directly translated into noise and pressure. Ultimately, the 15-minute curse is death by 1,000 cuts. It is almost never one single catastrophic event that shuts down the bite. It's not the one time you slammed your tackle box lid. It is the cumulative effect of a dozen small, seemingly insignificant mistakes. It's the shuffle of your feet, plus the cough, plus the scrape of the thermos, plus the shadow from you standing up, plus the click of the latch, plus the aggressive cast. Each one of these actions adds a little bit of stress and caution to the fish. Over the course of 15 minutes, these small disturbances build up until they cross a critical threshold. The fish's nervousness level goes from a 2 out of 10 to a 9 out of 10. At that point, it doesn't matter how good your bait is or how perfect your presentation is. The fish's priority has shifted from feeding to survival. They are no longer looking for food, they are looking for an escape route. You have, little by little, convinced them that your location is the most dangerous place to be. So how do we defeat the curse? Is the spot ruined for the day? Not necessarily. You can hit the master reset button, but it requires discipline. The moment you notice the bite has died, the worst thing you can do is stay put and keep fidgeting. The solution is to do the opposite. Quietly reel in your line, stand up slowly, and walk away from your spot. Go at least 50 or 60 yards away and just wait. Give the spot 10 to 15 minutes to completely calm down. This allows your scent to dissipate and, more importantly, it stops the constant barrage of noise and vibration. You are letting the fish's stress level return to zero. When you return, you must treat it like you are approaching a brand new spot. Every bit of stealth you used at the beginning of the day must be used again. Move slowly, keep a low profile, and make your movements deliberate and quiet. The key is to break the cycle of comfort and complacency. Treat every minute of your fishing day like it's the first 5 minutes. That is the secret to keeping the bite going for hours. So, there you have it. The 15-minute curse isn't a curse, a myth, or some unexplainable fish behavior. It's us. It's a predictable pattern of mistakes we all make when we switch our brains from hunter mode to lounging mode. We get a couple of fish, our confidence goes up, and our discipline goes down. The biggest aha moment here is this. The fish don't leave because they're full or because a predator scared them. They leave because you become the predator. Your noise, your shadow, your vibrations, they all add up until your presence is no longer tolerable. This changes everything. It means you have complete control over how long a bite lasts. It's not about luck, it's about mindfulness. The next time you're out on the water, pay attention to that 15-minute mark. When you feel yourself starting to get comfortable, to shift your weight, to rummage through your gear, stop. Remind yourself that every single action has a consequence underwater. This simple shift in mindset from just being a fisherman to being a quiet hunter will absolutely transform your results. Thank you so much for watching. If this video opened your eyes, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content that breaks down the why of fishing. Now, I have a question for you, and be honest. What is the one comfort habit you know you're guilty of? Is it stomping your feet to stay warm? Constantly opening your tackle box? Let's confess our fishing sins in the comments below.